A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no fuller on earth could bleach them. Then Elijah appeared to them along with Moses, and they were conversing with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He hardly knew what to say. They were so terrified. Then a cloud came, casting a shadow over them. From the cloud came a voice, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone but Jesus alone with them. As they were coming down the mountain, he charged them not to relate what they had seen to anyone, except when the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what rising from the dead meant. The Gospel of the Lord. I was busy yesterday watching Big Hero 6 with my boys. If you've got kids, you probably know what Big Hero 6 is all about. It's a cartoon. And of course, there was a bad guy who wears a mask, and you think you've got a pretty good idea of who this is, only to find out it's someone else entirely. I think a lot of movies do this. They've got us wondering all the while who this person might be, and then usually at some point toward the end, the person's true identity is revealed. And then sometimes, like on Big Hero 6, it's a total surprise. Had no idea. You thought it was someone else entirely. Oh my gosh, never would have saw that coming. And then there are other times when you say, "Ha ha, I knew it. I knew all along. I knew exactly who that was going to be." You figured it out, right? Today, Jesus removes the mask. He takes Peter, Andrew, and John up the mountain. Peter, James, and John up the mountain. His true identity is revealed. He reveals himself to them in his full glory. As we know, all throughout the gospel, people are always asking the question, who is this? He teaches with authority. He forgives sins. All the question of who's this person? The demons always know. What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? They always know. But the disciples are sometimes confused. Jesus takes his chosen few up the mountain where they experience Moses and Elijah, Jesus' glory and God the Father. What an amazing experience, this mountaintop experience. Naturally, they do not want this moment to end. I love that Peter says, "This is awesome." Those are my words, not his. "This is awesome. Let's build some tents. Let's camp out here. Let's stay a while on the mountaintop because this is awesome." They don't want this moment to end. And Peter wants to build some tents. He wants to stay there. He rightfully wants this experience with the Lord where God's glory is fully revealed. He wants it to last forever. And as we know, it does not. Just as soon as he offers to build some tents, it's all over with and they walk back down the hill. But what a wonderful gift they were able to take with them. I think that gift, and others like it, is what kept them on their journey. As they went through difficult times, as they, even after Jesus' death and resurrection, as they were persecuted, as they went from town to town, as they lived their Christian faith, it was that reflection on who Jesus was for them, that moment on the mountaintop that gave them the fuel that they needed to get through their difficult times. It kept their faith strong. They just had to remember They didn't have cell phones. I'm sure Peter would have been like selfie with the transfigured Jesus if he had one. There have been many times in my life when I have experienced Jesus in all his glory. Okay, not that many, but some. The truth is, in my Christian life, I can count on one hand, a full one hand, the number of times where God spoke to my heart, where God was revealed before me. When life is difficult, when I need to reconnect with God, I remember those times when God spoke to me. I remember the joy at that moment, that mountaintop experience, and it helps me get through the difficult times. Photographs often do the same thing. Does anyone still have photographs? Those are those paper things with pictures on them. You used to get them done in the roll, 36 at a time. This has been a dumpster fire of a year for sure. We haven't gone anywhere or done anything as a family, but it has created an opportunity for me to finally put together some Shutterfly photo albums. I'm pretty organized as it goes, and I take all my photos from my camera and my son's camera, and my wife's camera, and it gets backed up to my drive, and then I store them by year. And I always think at the end of the year, I'm gonna make a photo album, and I never do. But this year I did. I made 6 of them, right? I just unloaded those photos. I dumped hundreds of photos into Shutterfly, and I made the albums. And we sat there and went through from when the boys were 5 and 6 and 7, and we laughed and we remembered. We remembered Santa Cruz. We remembered the Azores. We remembered cousins and get-togethers. And it brought joy and life even amidst the difficult times. That's the nice thing about photos. They take you back. They help you remember. They bring renewed laughter. They bring renewed joy and life. They help us remember. Peter and James and John didn't have a camera, but I know that if they did, they would have carried that photo of Jesus in all of his glory everywhere that they went. They had it in their mind, and I'm convinced that it's that got them through those difficult times. They remembered and they found joy. And as we journey through Lent, we need to remember. We need to take the time with God. We need to take the time to sit in prayer and remember God's companionship all throughout our lives. We need to remember because it's very, very easy to forget. It's very easy to get too busy with our lives. We don't stop to reflect on the constant abiding presence of God. But that can happen in prayer. We need to remember that our blessed Lord is always there, always speaking to us. We need to pull out those photos in our mind when we experience Jesus without the mask. Maybe it was through another person. Maybe it was through an event, maybe a retreat. That moment when you heard in your heart the voice of God, when you saw in another the presence of Jesus. We've been in a desert, and many of us have lost people that we love in this past year. I would also invite you to go through your photo albums at home. Make Sunday a day where you sit with family and you remember. I'm going to sit down with an album or two to remember when my boys wanted love and hugs and kisses, and not just money. Consider this a spiritual discipline. I'm admonishing you, do this. Take the time to go through the photos. Get out the box, get up in the attic, dust off the cobwebs, and go through those photos. Take the time to go through those memories. Photos keep people and places alive in our heart. And that life brings us joy. And I'm convinced that Jesus tells his disciples, do this in remembrance of me. He says, gather together often, even daily. That's why daily mass is so beautiful. That's why the Sundays matters so much. Gather together to remember, to reflect, to tell this story, to hear these readings. We need to be people who remember. So build your tent just for a moment. In the storms of life, build your tent. Remember God, remember family and friends, and find your joy again.